President Trump is facing new backlash today for suggesting that he can't be accused of breaking the law if he's working to save the country. Hours after posting that message, Trump's former Vice President Mike Pence shared a link to an article he wrote in 2010 about the importance of adhering to the Constitution. Democratic Senator Adam Schiff said, quote, "spoken like a true dictator." And Democratic Congressman Richie Torres said, in part, Trump seems to believe he can do whatever he wishes in the name of saving the country. Torres adds the U.S. Constitution trumps the policy preferences of President Trump. Joining us now is Margaret Talev, senior contributor for Axios and director of the Institute for Democracy, Journalism, and Citizenship at Syracuse University. Margaret, I want to get your reaction to Trump's post. What do you make of this?
Well, Paula, it's certainly designed to get everyone's attention and create quite a reaction, and it's doing that so far. He's taken steps like pinning it or putting it out there to begin with. It's obviously he wants people talking about this. So the question is, what is he trying to tell us? Is he foreshadowing a series of actions that will flout the law, that judges will push back on, and that he'll say, I'm doing it anyway because it's for the country? Or is the purpose of it to get the reaction, or is the purpose of it somewhere in between? And the truth is, at this point, we don't know yet, but we do know that the very essence of the quote, it's been attributed to Napoleon, yes, the former French emperor who was then exiled after Waterloo and who took hold of leadership with a coup. So it is a provocative quote, and it's designed to be provocative. I think the question or the concern, both from lawmakers and also from the legal community, is this more than just a provocation? Is this him broadcasting his intentions as he continues to push boundaries?
Well, speaking of someone who is not known to be provocative, former Vice President Mike Pence wrote and linked to this article where he says, quote, "without proper adherence to the rule contemplated in the Constitution for the presidency, the checks and balances in the constitutional plan become weakened." What's he getting at here?
There has been a debate or a provocative discussion again, inside sort of Trump world, about the idea of whether we're in a post-constitutional era, whether the Constitution that founded the United States continues to be relevant or should continue to be relevant. But of course, to your point, you're right. It's a nation of laws. There's a rule of law, and there are three separate branches of government, and the Supreme Court ultimately decides whether actions fall within the law. Those are the rules of the country, and if there weren't those rules, there would be lawlessness and violence, and everything would be a jump ball. So I think there again, I think it looks to me like all these various parties, whether they're Republican, whether they've been aligned with Trump in the past or not, are trying to figure out, is this again, meant to have a chilling effect or get everyone's attention and that's it? Or is this foreshadowing of steps to come? And at this point, because we're only a few weeks into the new administration, all you have to go on are the early actions of the administration. But certainly with DOJ, with some of these mass firings, with many moves that are already headed to the courts, the president has shown a willingness certainly to push the boundaries of what has ever been allowable behavior by an executive in the modern United States.
Now, Trump is also responding to critics who say it's Elon Musk who is actually the one in charge. Let's take a listen to what he said in a joint interview with Musk on Fox.
Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. No, they said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, It's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president.
What do you think is going on with that interview and behind the scenes?
I mean, if it were a reality show, it would certainly be a scripted moment. It seems like, again, a moment that is meant to entertain, to provoke, to get people to talk about it. But the truth is, Elon Musk isn't doing anything that President Trump hasn't empowered him to do. If President Trump didn't want him doing the things he's doing, he wouldn't be doing them anymore. So I think for a lot of members of Congress, there was all of this debate early on about how much scrutiny should cabinet nominees get. Well, if you can install someone outside of the nomination process who doesn't have to answer to anyone in the Senate and is empowered uniquely by the president unless a court says they can't be, then why does it matter who the cabinet nominees are? So I think, again, you are really seeing something very different here play out. And it is meant to provoke, it is meant to get people who are concerned about boundaries in the system all whipped up and fired up. They are playing it as they have intended it, and that's what's going on right now.
Margaret Talev, thank you. More when we come back.